Okay then, so we're back, and this is the continuation of a series that I started a long time ago, but I have to have the passion to deal with it. So this week I went back and I watched all of the Alien movies. Alien 2, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. And, I've got some things to say. So without much ado, let's get to it after the cut. Well, this might be a little presumptuous of me, but I think the problems with the Alien franchise just basically break down to a few things. First, a lot of people just don't understand what makes the Alien franchise tick, like what makes it interesting. Even the people who own the franchise, Fox, don't know what makes it interesting. They do things like, hey, we're gonna get Ridley Scott, forgetting that Ridley Scott made one Alien movie, and he didn't even make the best film in the franchise. Okay, the best film in the Alien franchise is Aliens. Why? Because Aliens basically takes the concept that was in the first film and improves upon it. It's a horror action movie. The first Alien, literally, you could have put anything. You could have had a human killer going around killing people in the Sulaco, and it wouldn't have made any difference. Like, you still would have had that atmosphere of just random people being murdered, basically, and taken out, or otherwise incapacitated. Just the fact that the xenomorph is there makes it more interesting. In my opinion. So essentially, you're dealing with some issues, if you will. So that's the first problem. People don't understand it, and don't acknowledge just how much the second film really pushed it forward. Even the third film, even though people really don't like that film, did add some stuff to it. And all of these added information to the xenomorphs. For example, in the first film, we learned that they come from eggs. From the eggs come this weird portable vagina that rapes your face, implants an egg, and the egg takes some of your DNA. You learn this from the third movie, containing characteristics of whoever it's incubated inside of. We don't know the split. It's not exactly 50-50, but the xenomorph always has characteristics of what its host was when it was incubated, before it becomes a chest burster. And then it incubates for a time, and then it bursts out of someone's chest and fucking kills them. Almost always. And that's what goes down. Okay? So where do we go from there? We learn in the second one that there's a queen who lays these eggs, and aliens really don't fucking like androids. And that's about it. Okay? The queen is very intelligent. She can lay out plans. As a matter of fact, the aliens are very intelligent. They can figure out things. They have a will to survive. They're kind of sadistic. And the species, the xenomorphs, are so alien to what we know that a lot of things that normal tracking devices don't really work. Okay? That's what we learn in Alien. Okay? Alien. Sorry, aliens. Okay? So yeah, the second film really gives us a lot of information. And then, in Alien 3, well, I already talked about Alien 3. Alien 4, we learned some other stuff, like essentially the predators are, the aliens are essentially even smarter than we've ever realized. They can actually formulate plans and, learn cause and effect, and they will sacrifice. I mean, they're like an ant hive. They'll sacrifice an individual for the good of the hive. Very intelligent creatures, with a hive-like intelligence. Okay, that's what we learned. Now, if you want to go with the extended stuff, in the first film, we also learned that aliens, xenomorphs don't just come from eggs. They can also do this thing where they can turn people into weird fucking cocoons and create more of themselves. Sorry, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So yeah, that's what we have in Alien. In the Alien thing, just to go on to the other problems, which is, that's the information. The third problem is that information was shot to hell by Ridley Scott, who only made one fucking film in the franchise. The first one, but not the one that really pushed it and made it more interesting. Because I've said this before, the first Alien is essentially just this is a horror movie in space. The tagline for the film is "In space, no one can hear you scream." It's a horror movie. It's a corridor horror movie in space. People being picked off one by one, and you don't know what it is, and then when you finally see it, it's like, oh shit! Like that's the entire fucking film. I mean, I'm not impressed. Okay, look, listen. I have watched Aliens so many times. Okay. The first movie so many times. I love it, but come on, there's better than this, okay? And that's the problem, okay? So then we get to Ridley Scott, who is given the franchise again, and he wants to move away from the aliens and focus on androids because that's scary, whatever. Okay then, cool. And then he proceeds to basically destroy all the mythos that was built up by previous films and make it about androids, which is where he kind of fucks up a bit, because really, the androids, Ridley Scott's tried to do androids so many times, like with Blade Runner, and that film flopped. And Prometheus wasn't that good. It was not that good. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I liked it. Yeah, okay, you can like it as much as you want to, but it wasn't that good. It was okay. It wasn't great, but whatever. Prometheus wasn't that good of a film, and Alien Covenant was even worse. So I guess we need to go to the biggest problem with all of this. We have a problem with mythos and focus. The Alien franchise is about, xenomorphs. It's about the struggle of these people, no matter what, the setting is, with the xenomorphs, right? And how basically they're fucking unstoppable. That's the entire point of Alien. If you don't deal with that, then you're not really dealing with what the franchise is about, and that's one of the problems of the thing. So with that being said, let's move on to the solution. I'm going to pitch a couple of ideas for an Alien movie, or even a trilogy, done so that I guarantee it will be profitable, and I guarantee it would probably do really well. So let's get to that after the cut. So here are my ideas for an Alien franchise revival. just a couple of ideas, very simple. My first idea is essentially to do an alien film which basically disavows all that David created the xenomorphs thing. And how we do this is we basically do a little movie where essentially, the beginning of it, David goes to some planet, some ancient, old planet that's under quarantine by the engineers. And when he gets there, he discovers, oh shit, this planet is the alien home planet, the xenomorph home planet, okay? Or maybe just a really old planet that they had basically taken over. And he comes out there, he's just promptly fucking murdered, because we know xenomorphs don't like androids. They go out of their way to fucking kill them. So, get that shit out the way right there. You can have xenomorphs, you can have David's own little xenomorphs that he created get wiped the fuck out. So we just wipe that shit clean. Just get rid of that shit. It would be interesting to see that character get his ass kicked, but that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to the meat of this film. I propose 3 movies, doing the worst case scenario for what could happen if xenomorphs ever made it to a certain point. The big thing is, the big thing that every Alien movie, even Alien Resurrection, gets right about Alien is that it would be fucking horrifying if xenomorphs got on Earth, because Earth has a massive population and xenomorphs are like a fucking infestation. It would be horrific if they were to make it to planet Earth. So I propose doing a trilogy, spending $40 million a pop, basically where this scenario happens. Xenomorphs have made it to Earth. Okay? Let me continue. The first film would be a straight up horror film. My idea is to basically, for $40 million, we're not spending a huge amount of money. This is like a mid-tier science fiction film. Ironically, $40 million is about how much, if you adjust for inflation, the first Star Wars was made for. So, you can do some wonderful things with a low price. But let's get to it. So here's my idea. It takes place on basically a government project in the future, okay? Weyland-Yutani finally got to do what they always wanted, which was to bring a xenomorph to Earth, okay? For research purposes, blah, blah, blah. But it got loose. Not only did the xenomorph egg get loose, it was a queen. And now the queen is breeding. But this is the future. And, the city that this happens in has an undercity and the overcity, which you see on top. So essentially, people are disappearing, but they're poor and not really in the system, so no one knows what's going on. And your main setting is this government housing facility where there's crime bosses in the underpart, and the normal people live up top, but everyone's disappearing. There's 3 main characters in this film. There is a doctor who used to work for Weyland-Yutani who's like, I don't really like these fucking people. She knows where the bones are buried, but she's dying. She has some crippling degenerative disease, and she basically uploads her mind into an android like halfway through the film. Okay? This becomes important later on in the climax of the film. You also have, and she basically is the linchpin for, this information, like in order for you to do any maintenance to the androids, there's a form of DRM where they have to be connected to the Weyland-Yutani network. And since she used to work for them, she knows back doors in order to do that. While she's doing this, she comes to the realization that they've been doing an experiment at a special site that's located kind of underneath the city, and there's something extraordinarily dangerous that's broken loose. It's the xenomorph queen, and she's breeding. The hive is spreading. The infestation is spreading. You have this main character, female character. You know, I don't want to call it an Ellen Ripley analog because she really isn't an Ellen Ripley. Because humans are going to lose in this film. This film is the message of this film is one of hopelessness, and man, we're fucked. So essentially, during this film, you have these three main. The second main character is a Weyland-Yutani executive who essentially is the person who was supposed to be in charge of this project, and basically doesn't have a grasp of just how fucking bad this is. I thought that would be cool. The sad thing about all of this is that no one seems to understand is that this guy, this clueless executive, is always fucking he's always behind the curtain. So we establish how badass this group of this group of xenomorphs are by basically first he sends corporate security, and they get their asses kicked. Then he sends a higher grade of corporate security, and they get their asses kicked. Or you could even make them like Black Ops Colonial Marine. And then finally, he's like, shit. He's got to pretend like it's a biohazard, and he's got fucking like the police and the firefighters going down there to see what's going on. But it's too late at this point. Shit has gotten out of control. So, which leads to the third character, a former corporate colonial marine who's basically like, look, I'm just trying to live, and he's got to play bodyguard for some drug dealers who come to the realization that shit's about to get real. And he's a dude who has a prosthetic arm, I think, would be cool. And he's like, look, I want to get the fuck out of here. Because, he sees someone get snatched by a xenomorph right in front of him, and he can't believe this shit, but he knows it's dangerous. He's like, he's got to get the fuck out. But he doesn't have the clearance to use any of the flying vehicles that may exist. So he's like, shit, I gotta get the fuck out of Dodge. So the film you have this Marine leading a group of people, let's say a drug dealer and his two associates, out from basically what used to be their underground hideout headquarters that's now being turned into an alien hive. And essentially, along the way they run into the doctor who has gotten her new android body, culminating with them leaving. Right when they're about to leave, running into, finally this executive goes personally along with his elite, basically we kill people for a living, troubleshooter team, who basically at this point are like, okay, we gotta kill anyone who sees, because they can't know that we were involved with this. And of course, they live. These two people, along with maybe you can have one or two people from the group, from the drug dealer group, maybe 7 people, excluding the drug dealer and his 2 associates, and they fight their way up to the top of this building to get to the various flying vehicles to get out. The scientist wants to basically get out so that she can broadcast this information that she took about the project. the Xenomorph Project. Call it some weird name like Project Sierra or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't care. But and that's the film. That's the first film. It ends with basically them bombing that city. You can use stock footage. You can use CGI to make it look like they're bombing the shit out of the city. But what you see is that they didn't get all of the city, and you see basically, these tunnels that have been dug by xenomorphs. So that's the film. That's the film. It's gonna end badly. The second film would be just people would be the world government, Earth's government trying to contain the spread of xenomorphs. And the second film, in the film, you would have the Doctor and the Marine guy come back, but it would be very much a different thing going on. So, culminating with the third film, which was, of course, be them finally defeating the infestation. And the title of each of these films would be Alien Infestation, Alien Extermination, and then Alien Eradication. Those would be the films. So tell me what you think about my ideas for an Alien, to bring back the Alien franchise. I have another film, another video coming out tomorrow, where I'll be talking about Predator, and hopefully another film talking about Final Fantasy as a whole, kind of bring that back. So thank you, and good day.